What's going on, folks? Zach from Uchuu Shelf here. Hope you guys are doing good. Hope you guys are reading lots of manga. I know I've been. And today I wanted to give you guys my first impressions of another new Shonen Jump manga. And that is Undead Unluck by Yoshifumi Tozuka. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Now, I had quite a few comments on some of my other first impressions videos asking, hey, Zach, when are you going to do your first impressions of Undead Unluck? Admittedly, I wasn't going to. I try not to review things that I overtly don't like, but you guys asked for it, and you know me, I like to give the people what they want. Regardless, I wasn't a huge fan of this, I'll just say that off the bat, but I will give you my first impressions anyway. So, Undead Unluck starts with a young woman reading her favorite romance manga. It's in the final volume, she's in the final chapter. She closes the book, she's really happy, she's satisfied with the ending, and then it is revealed that she's standing on the other side of a bridge railing with the full intention of killing herself. Below her is a rail yard, there are trains coming and going, tracks. If you jump off this thing, you will definitely die, but that's what she's set out to do. Meanwhile, there's a whole bunch of onlookers, they're pleading with her, they're like, don't do it, you have so much to live for, you're a young woman. But she apparently holds a curse where if people touch her, they tend to be very unlucky. And that is seen when a man with some kind of metal shrapnel hops over the railing, touches her to try and stop her, I presume, and he ends up being stabbed in the stomach. But he falls off the bridge, gets hit by a train, decapitated, the whole 9 yards. When she goes down to see if he's okay, his head is there. He's still talking. His body's regenerating. He reveals that he is not a zombie, as she thinks she is, but an undead. Someone who cannot die. The young woman also reveals to the man that anyone who touches her tends to be unlucky. And most of the time, that luck tends to end with people dying. So that's exactly what this guy is after, this undead fella, who is tired of immortality and just absolutely, well, he wants one thing out of life, and he wants to die. And he figures, if he touches her, that's exactly what he'll get. But he doesn't just want to die, he wants to die one final time. Now, amidst the two of them actually trying a whole bunch of ways to kill him, not that they're actually working, a whole bunch of shady-looking dudes show up, they arrest the young girl, they take the guy's newly decapitated head, and they've got this little capsule box. They let her know that he's actually known as a negator, and finds out that she's actually herself a negator. So it stands to reason that these guys presumably think they're the good guys. They're some kind of organization that are bent on stopping negators. So despite them saying that once his head's in a box, he can't regenerate and he can't come back to life, he actually does come back purposely to save the young woman. Ends up getting decapitated, and as his head is flying over, she kisses it, runs out of the building, and a meteorite strikes the building, presumably killing all these bad guys. They end it by introducing themselves, her as Fuuko, and him doesn't remember his name. He has presumably been alive for, I would imagine, centuries. But she gives him the name Andy, as it kind of sounds like undead. Which is kind of funny. And thus starts their journey of him trying to kill himself and her probably also trying to kill herself. So I was pretty forward about it at the beginning of this video. I actually did not like Undead Unluck at all. Now, I do have a small gripe with how this was promoted, because it's pretty much promoted with Andy and Fuuko just standing there. He's hugging her from behind, but he's also kind of groping her. And I don't know, given the fact that that wasn't the whole focal point of the series, although there is a part where that does happen, he explains that basically, if someone can be hugged by her and die in a horrible plane crash, then what could happen if he gropes her? I don't know, I think once you read one too many manga, the whole sexualization stuff gets to be really fucking tiresome. Now, the deaths did feel gimmicky. The first one where he falls off the bridge after getting stabbed and gets his head blown off by a train actually was kind of funny. But it's kind of like hearing the same joke again and again and again and again, and each time you hear it, it's still kind of funny, but by the time you get to the 6th or 7th iteration, it's like, tell a new joke. I also had an issue with how one-dimensional Andy and Fuuko felt. Now, this might be no fault of the creator at all, because one chapter, about 40-something pages, to kind of jam your first impressions of a series into, is admittedly tough. It can be a very hard thing to do. Unfortunately, I've seen much better series that are still running in Shonen Jump that managed not to have this problem. Mostly circling back to Andy's character, the fact that his whole thing is just about dying and wanting to die. It's funny, like I mentioned, but once you've seen it a million times, and I can presume as the chapters go on, we're going to see more and more of it, it's like, okay, come on, let's do something new here. Like, it's a pretty bad sign that if I'm done the first chapter and I feel like the concept of it is already played out, I don't think I'm going to enjoy the series. And that's mostly why I have no intention of ever reading past the second chapter. I'll maybe give the third and fourth chapter a try, hopefully it turns itself around, but having read a lot of the Jumpstart stuff and been following Shonen Jump's newest series for the better part of a decade, it's kind of easy to tell what's going to stick and what doesn't. It really feels like Undead Unluck isn't going to be one of those series that sticks around for too long. And if it does stick around, I can see its initial concept immediately being thrown out the window, more negators and negator powers being introduced, and it pretty much devolving into your stereotypical battle shonen, and quite frankly, I think we already have enough of those in Shonen Jump, and they do a hell of a lot better than this series probably ever could. Now, I'm not going to completely shit all over this series. Now, I did like the character designs and the art. I felt they were very fresh. And while the style of the manga certainly wasn't anything to write home about, I think it stood out more than enough to differentiate itself amongst other series in the magazine. And I do like Andy. I thought his character was pretty funny at first, but like I said, it's just once you see the same gimmick done millions of times, it just gets really old. And there are a lot of series that do that, where they have one gimmick continuously, forever. It's still pretty fresh in the way that it's executed. So, for example, like One Punch Man, Mob Psycho 100, it probably could end up being like that. It could be very, very funny and still fresh later on down the road. But the way I'm looking at it now, as I mentioned, if you're tired of it by the end of the first chapter, there's a pretty good chance that that's as good as it's going to get. And I do have to admit that for a Shonen Jump manga, this is a pretty original concept. The idea that someone really wants to die and they enlist someone whose luck is so bad that anyone who touches them can kill them. It definitely plants the seeds to be a really good action comedy, but like I said, we're only 2 chapters into this series. The third one is probably out by the time this video gets released. I don't know. I'm really not feeling it. I really tried to like this. I gave it a second shot, and I don't know, guys. I really didn't like it. And I apologize if you did like it. I really tried my best, but either way, let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. Hit me up on Twitter at UchuuShelf. And as always, folks, don't forget to support legal manga. Go to www.wherecanireadmanga.com to get the lowdown on where you can read manga for free, through a subscription, or per volume, and have a list of places where you can read manga and support the industry. And until next time, folks, happy reading.